Welcome to How to Run Profitable Retreats podcast, the podcast that guides you not to only host retreats that thrive financially, but also transform people's lives. I'm your host, Lainey Cavazos, and each week I bring you the best strategies and personal insights to help you create retreat experiences that transform lives, both your clients and your own. In our journey together, we'll dive into the secrets behind successful retreats, from crafting a unique atmosphere to mastering the logistics that ensure profitability. Whether you're tuning in for inspiring interviews with leading retreat experts or seeking actionable advice in our solo episodes, this podcast is your go-to resource for turning your retreat visions into reality. Don't miss out on any of our episodes and subscribe now. For more tools and a free guide on creating your own six-figure retreat business, visit theretreatplanner.com. Now let's get started and make your retreat dreams come true. Hello, welcome back to another episode of our podcast on how to run profitable retreats. And today I'm so excited to introduce you to Mars Molina, who's going to be our guest speaker today. And he's a world-traveling yoga professor who seeks to teach spirituality in a way that it influences our daily lives, relationships, and business. Specialized in Vedic Astrology, and we're going to talk a little bit about this, and therapeutic yoga, he seeks to support leaders who struggle with anxiety, depression, illness, and much more to find harmony in their lives. So Mars, welcome to this space.
Thank you so much, Lenny. I'm really happy to be here and get the opportunity to talk to you and to your amazing audience about what else if not the things that I love. So this is like amazing for me to be here.
Oh, that's amazing. And I know you have so much to share with us today. And first, I want to start asking everyone in the audience just to think about it. Have you ever checked your astral chart, your natal chart, or you had like a Vedic astrology you worked with in the past? Is this something you're kind of, you know what it is about? Do you take it into consideration when it comes to your daily life, or is it something completely out of the ordinary? And in this conversation, we're going to be covering so much about this and how it's so powerful and how people in India take this extremely seriously. So Mars, if you want to tell us a little bit about this.
For sure. Thank you, Lenny. Well, Vedic astrology is quite a crazy wide topic, right? So one thing that I've been talking about, how fascinating it is, two qualities of it. One of them, it's fundamentally linked to the very, very rich tradition of India, all of its culture and spirituality. So it's very deeply ingrained in their daily lives. And so it has this this other quality that's quite fascinating. It's all about practicality. And of course, it's a spiritual science because it's Vedic, meaning it's a Vedanga, meaning that it comes from the Vedas. It's one of the tools, as it were, of the Vedas. So of course, it's sustained by this wonderful world of mysticism and surrealism and obscurity and rituals and practices, but it's also meant to accompany you in your daily life. And it only has those things because that's the culture that it comes from. That's just where it happens to be originated. And just as I say, they take it so seriously as one should once you discover what it can do for you. To give you an example, I have a software. I have a few books that I travel with me. I drive my girlfriend mad, always traveling with my big pile of books. You know, I'm a traveling yogi, so we're always moving around, and I always have a big pile of books. And I also have an app on my phone, and I am checking these things every day, so many times a day, because I look at all the qualities that are available moment to moment, what planet is doing what, in which sign, and where are we, and how that can signify something. So they do that in India. They do that to see what is the best time to do this activity or that activity, or is it a better time for me to just not do any important tasks? Should I just meditate, or maybe I just need to go take a nap?
I love this. Yes, it's so powerful, right? At the same time, I'm always like having this thought about like, how do you, sometimes it is important to also have this kind of space. And I think we were talking about this where you still have free will. so many times because of like the alignments of the planet. I'm just thinking right now about Mercury retrograde, right? It's happening right now. And I have so many people who really guide their lives through the planets. And if there's Mercury retrograde, they won't start anything new. They won't sign a contract because it's not in their best interest. And as much as I honor it, and I know it does make sense, like last week, one day, my computer just was like super, super slow. And I was like, okay, this is part of it. I honor it, but I don't surrender my power into it, right? Because then if we start living through the planets, that's a problem, right? Isn't it?
Absolutely. And that is, you're touching a very important point there. Ooh, this is a really fascinating thing. There is a great difference in the way Western mind behaves and what we may call perhaps the mind of the East, but it's not so much that it's the mind of the East, because even indigenous people in Mexico, are a little bit different than what we know as Western rationality, which is all about like creating tags about, oh, Mercury retrograde equals this. And well, there is a sense to that, but I would say that's just the beginning. Just as you said, I don't want to surrender my power to Mercury retrograde. What even is Mercury retrograde? And when you go and see, okay, Mercury retrograde it doesn't mean that Mercury is going to be here and be like, everyone, I'm going to ruin your lives. It's more that the presence of Mercury is strong. And that, of course, signifies something. But even if you hide under a cave, under a rock, you go to a cave to try and avoid Mercury retrograde is going to find you, because you do communication, you do commerce, and you do technology, no matter where you are. Even some of the greatest teachers and mentors that I have, even in astrology, they also, quote unquote, suffer the limitations or the behaviors of Mercury retrograde. Just the other day, one of the people that I study from, he was recording this amazing video. I was waiting for it very eagerly, and he's very passionate when he's recording. The microphone was off, so all we have from the recording is him going like this. So we have nothing basically. And he posted about this. He said, you can't hide from Mercury retrograde. It's meant to teach you a lesson. Are you going to learn it joyfully and live your life, or are you going to hide under a blanket? That's not going to work. And Mercury retrograde is not a negative thing. It's just a strong behavior of something. It is challenging. Life is challenging, but we're not meant to, I love how you said it, surrender our power. Your chart is not meant to lock you and limit you. It's just meant to show you what are the qualities that are available to you. And if those are qualities, that means that they are natural. And if you're a spiritual person, you know that nature is important, but you are not bound by nature. You're supposed to understand nature and transcend nature, the nature of your mind, the nature of the ego. So Mercury retrograde is just a strong tide that an experienced swimmer might just say, I'll go for the swim, see how I do.
Oh, I love this. This is an amazing way to explain it, right? And I think this is so important for all of us who are in this space, who are on the spiritual path, running retreats, creating transformational programs. It doesn't matter the shape or how it looks like, the container, right? It's all about creating transformation. And because we are in the business of creating transformation, we need to be aware of the things that are happening and how we can make the best out of it, right? How do we shift and then release, for example, the nature of the ego from our minds so we can serve people better? Because it's all about service at the end of the day, right?
Absolutely. And in this way, as leaders that we seek to be in our communities, and I would encourage everyone to always explore in what way you are being a leader of your community, because you always are leading or serving your community in some way or the other. You gotta be there. You gotta show up. Lately, in some of my classes, we've been talking a lot about integrity in its many dimensions. And long story short, one of the ways in which we can address integrity is by realizing that the people who receive a teaching, if they don't integrate it and they go out and spread it, they are only doing so because, first of all, they have a nice desire to support the communities. But also, if they are lacking in integration and you are able to notice that, you're able to notice this person lacks in integration, it is very likely that you yourself also have a different kind of lack of integration. Perhaps you are the person who was supposed to be in that platform because you have already integrated. Perhaps you are the one who should be doing the actions of leading people, of serving people, of supporting people. And if you don't show up, somebody else is going to take your place. So it is very crucial that in order for us to have a powerful and positive influence in our families, relationships, in our communities, we need to do the actions. We need to show up. And that for me is where spirituality becomes real and goes beyond, your meditation or your yoga mat or your whatever it is. You go out there, you go hug your mom, talk to your dad, ask questions, and shake things around a little bit.
I really enjoy this because, like, for me, it's just talking to me in the sense, and I know, like, we were talking about this earlier, but it was all about being spiritual doesn't mean you going and locking yourself into an ashram, right?
Yeah. That used to be me though. I definitely it's my life story. Like I said, from a very young age, I was very drawn to asking questions, to reading. I was such a nerd, such a bookworm. I'm still a bookworm and a nerd actually. What am I saying? But definitely back then, I just wanted to lock myself. And I even have this memory of when you're a kid at school, primary school, maybe 8, 9 years old, they ask you, what do you want to be when you grow up? And people would say all kind of things, right? They would say, oh, I want to be a chef. I want to be an astronaut. I want to be a doctor. And I described what it looked like for me. I said, okay, I'm going to be old. I'm going to have long hair and a big beard, but white. So not quite there yet. I'm going to have a big pipe. I don't know why I'm a kid and I'm imagining myself smoking a pipe. I imagine myself in a room full of books, and just reading and writing all day long. That's what I wanted to be. And who knows? That's maybe where my life will end. But that's a very far off vision that I had. I had this idea that I need to lock myself in the room and just write and read all day long. And I fought very hard, and I wasted a lot of time on this stubborn idea, because it was an idea of spirituality, until little by little, my teachers, my mentors, just flicked me and kicked me in the butt and threw me back to the pool of the world and said, you belong in the world for now. You are supposed to do certain things. They have an influence in your relationships, actively, in the economy, in finances, in business, in spirituality, in the world. You're supposed to help people with their bodies, like this, like that. Of course, they didn't say it straight like that. It took a few twists and turns for me to get the message. But we have this idea of how things are to be, and that again is a little tag of Western mindset. What happens if we remove the tag? Can I just allow myself to feel like myself and do something that feels extremely happy and extremely loving, and find my place in the world beyond what I think, beyond what somebody else thinks? And I don't think there's anything greater in spirituality than just being yourself and being happy, which is why I even named my company in Spanish the way I named it. It's siendo, which is the continuous verb of just be, just be. And to me, that's all.
This is perfect, because this is something that I've heard so many people in the spiritual world, or as humans, the transformational world, let's call it like that for the sake of the conversation, always wondering if they're being spiritual enough, if it's, and also having this big question about, if I'm spiritual, am I supposed to be abundant? If I'm spiritual, am I supposed to make money? If I'm spiritual, am I supposed to charge for my services? And yes, you are supposed to, because how are you supposed to show up and serve from an overflowing cup if you are coming from a place of scarcity, because you're thinking, oh my gosh, how am I going to pay rent? How am I going to pay my mortgage? How am I going to pay for my car? All these questions. And the reality is that they are not separate, because since the beginning of times, right, there has been trade. Maybe there was not the dollar sign, but in Mexico, people were trading cacao seeds, and that was their gold.
Absolutely. That's a very, very important topic nowadays in spirituality. And I think there's a lot of confusion there. even in terms of integrity. I see a lot of professionals in my field, a lot of my colleagues who view with a harsh vision many young people who are jumping into the world of spirituality, coaching, blah, 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 and they're saying, well, these young kids are charging incredible amounts of money, and here I am teaching 50 classes per week. And I say, well, wait a minute, why aren't you doing that? If that's something that's bothering you, perhaps that's something that you should be jumping on board, because also as a yoga teacher, you should not be teaching 50 classes a day. You're getting a big energy loan from the bank. You're eventually going to have to pay that back. I know that from experience. You're going to be so exhausted. You're going to come back for 5 lifetimes if you keep doing that. So spirituality and prosperity are so fundamentally interconnected, interlinked. All spiritual masters, this is what my mentor taught me in Trinidad, all spiritual masters were incredibly prosperous. Perhaps not, again, in the tag that we have. Maybe they didn't have a big pile of money in the bank. Some of them did, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. If you're busy taking time to study, to meditate, to reflect, some of us practice and meditate and do research and all that for hours and hours a day, every day. Some of us are very disciplined. During that time, we cannot hunt, we cannot gather. And we, however, have a function in society. So therefore, we share to society, so society, quote unquote, pays back. So we are able to be in an exchange with our community and receive something for what we give. And I find that there is nothing fundamentally wrong with that. And yet, I believe it's an important conversation because you need to make money to sustain yourself. And of course, there's external struggles. That's inevitable. You may say, oh, well, the economy is doing this and my country is doing that. Of course, that we cannot bypass it. We shouldn't go, into what is now known as spiritual bypassing. But look at your internal experience. If there's a situation of lack, it's very likely temporary, and you're at peace. Well, perhaps that's it. You just need to be patient and work on it. The universe will sustain you. But if you are in an experience of lack and you are in so much trouble inside and so much stress, then of course therein lies the spiritual lesson. We are in this field, so we are supposed to embody to the best of our abilities, not to perfection, what we preach. So let's shift that mindset. Let's seek, how can I adjust my practice, my actions, my meditation, my business to have internal peace to affect my external experience. So definitely spirituality and prosperity intimately linked, and I find that is just natural. It's perfect.
Yeah, I believe that too. I think it should be normal. It should not be a struggle, right? And because we see so many monks and like really removing, that's kind of like the concept from the Western side, right? You're spiritual, so you're a monk, then you left everything behind, and now you eat out of people giving you money, right? Or like charity and all this kind of things. And then you assume that for you to be spiritual, you need to be exactly the same. Right. And the reality is spirituality is a way of being spiritual. It's a way of being. It's not if we start putting labels on it, if we start saying the only way you're spiritual it's if you do X, Y, and Z, and then you go and you move inside a cave in the mountains and you eat only air, and that's what spirituality means, then who is going to work and be able to give charity? So the monks that need charity, because they are doing this praying and working the whole day, so they don't have time to go out and get a regular job, eat. Yeah. Right? So then you would completely disrupt the way things can work. Yeah. Because then we would all be inside caves, and we're humans. We're made to be part of communities and be together. Yeah. If not, we would all still be nomads, and we would be extinct, because we will all be like, no, I'm supposed to be by myself in a cave. So then you don't meet a man or a woman, and then there's no babies, and then there's no reproduction, and then we would not exist.
And that's
We're
it.
sociable people,
Yeah.
as you know, as part of our nature.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? I think there's a time for everything. That spiritual life, it can be so beautiful, the monastic life. But I would say that's reserved for a very select few amount of people who are supposed to go through that in some way or another. If we're in this understanding of spirituality, we can safely say that there is at least some acceptance of the idea of an immortal soul and reincarnation and all these things. So very likely those of us who are in the middle of the world, capitalism, 2023, and I don't know, chat GPTs and TikToks and all this sort of thing, we're very likely to be here because we've already experienced a spiritual life before, especially if we are in this in-between state of, I want to be spiritual, but I want to be in the world. It's very likely that you have a job to do. And today is already a new stage. Today is the age, this may really trigger some people, but today is the age of the spiritual millionaire. Today is the age of the spiritual billionaire, of people who are going to also prove the power of spirituality in any place of the world. There've been spiritual kings, spiritual monks, spiritual warriors, spiritual this. Let's see the spiritual, whatever it may be. Uh, you know, Touching even base a little bit with Vedic astrology as well. There is nothing in any planet or any deity or any sign or any placement that is inherently bad or evil. Everything in the chart is given to you so that you may evolve, so that you may grow. So therefore, we can also assume that the same is true for everything in life. ChatGPT is here to make me evolve. It's up to me to figure out how. A feeling of lack is here to make me evolve. It's up to me to figure out how. My relationships, we're here to exchange. How are we helping each other grow? It's up to us. It's up to me. It's up to us to have a beautiful effect on the world and just be, as you said. And how's it going to be? It's going to be good. It's going to be blissful. It's going to be happy. It's there's a price to pay, but it's only a price to pay because we put the toll there, and we just need to pay it. We have an endless supply of inspiration, love, and power. Let's just go through that small door, as they say, and help each other out.
One of my coaches, her name is Kathy Heller, and she's absolutely amazing. And I love her, love everything that she teaches. And she was saying just yesterday that only like 8% of the capital goes into like women's for investment and like, venture capital, and only 8% for women, right? She's like, this is a time for women to be billionaires. She's like, I have 3 daughters. I want them to have whatever they want. And then she's definitely spiritual, like, right? And she's like, you can be abundant in many different ways. I am abundant in money, and then that allows me to be abundant in so many other things. And it's just great, right? For me, I love it because it's just like, you can. And I rather someone spiritual having a bunch of money that they can use for something good than a bunch of people who have a lot of money and they just do bad stuff. Right?
Yeah,
if you get to
absolutely.
choose which billionaires that you want in the world, I rather have the ones who care about the world.
Absolutely. And just this morning we were having this conversation of, we don't know how many billionaires are out there. We have the public ones and the ones that are definitely hiding for whatever reason. We don't know why these people are not using 1% of the riches to, I don't know, take us to space, solve world hunger, and wars, blah, 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 all these things. I truly don't know the answer. So people might be very firm and tell you, oh, it's the Illuminati. Oh, it's blah, blah, blah. Oh, it's karma. Honestly, I have no access to the answer. I'll tell you when I find it. But here's what I do know. If and when I become a much prosperous being, that I am already, but in this external play, right? Then it's my time to prove what I can do with this investment, what I can do with this power, what I can do with this influence. Can I be honorable enough to use resources and funds and associations and institutions? It'll be up to me because, if just we look at metaphysics, quantum mechanics and spirituality, going back to the core of it, I have absolutely no proof, no guarantee that billionaires exist, because they're not me, I'm not them, in this in immediate individual experience. So I have no access to that answer. All I can do is, okay, well, this is the one that I am. I don't know about you. I don't know about them. I only have this one. So let me use this one. Let me try to make this one as I guess, as good, quote unquote, as I can. Let me throw this one into the world and see what this one is capable of. Let's see what happens. As I like to call it, let me try and go and break a leg and fail spectacularly in life. Just see what happens.
Yeah, well, at the end of the day, you can always consider this as a game, right? And it's a game where you come to create whatever you want, right? It's your opportunity to become whoever you want to be and do whatever you want to do in your life. And the only one who's stopping you, it's yourself.
There you go.
Maybe just by even allowing other people to tell you you can't do this and you making it your truth. But what about making your own truth now, saying my new truth is I can create whatever I want. And if I want to create $1 billion, and this $1 billion, I'm going to give half of it to help feed people in India because they're starving. What an amazing thing to do.
Yeah, absolutely. There are so many ways in which we can act and contribute, and I really enforce in my communities, let's be action oriented. Of course we need to watch for our minds, do our meditation, do our discipline, but let's do the actions. We have to do the actions because we have a nervous system, we have a body. When you're only a spirit and you go to the advanced stages and you're dancing in the heavens with all the angels, all the spiritual and elemental beings, you go do whatever you want. But while we're here, let's do the actions. Let's make a plan and influence this part of the play, or this stage of the play. Whether you want to call it the lower experience, the worldly experience, mundane, Kali Yuga, you name it. Whether it's Kali Yuga or not, you still have a job to do, right? Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. So, yeah, let's try our best.
Yes, I think this is amazing. And for everyone listening here to this amazing conversation, it's so important to know that you can create whatever you want out of your life, and that there is Vedic astrology that can help you out through the process just to guide you into this space. And, Mars here does a different way on Vedic astrology because he does it in a way that he accompanies you through the process, right? So many times we go and then we listen to something is absolutely amazing, and I've been there so many times and it's great, but then it just basically I just put it in the drawer. I don't know if you've done this before in the past, but you just put it in the drawer of like additional knowledge into your life, and you're like, oh, okay, good, now I know this is going to happen or this is not. And then actually sometimes it can be either counteractive, right? Because you are like, this is the only path because someone told me, and then you're again giving away your power. But what about having this space where you get to explore and spend more time really nurturing more than what is your destiny? What are the qualities that you have that you can explore?
Absolutely. It would be like and we do this, all of us, I'm sure. When we're starting the spiritual journey, we're fresh and young. What's that expression in English? Bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, right? And some of us are guilty of doing a little bit of the spiritual shopping, the spiritual buffet, and you go try a little bit of this, try a little bit of that, try a little, and you don't stick with any of them, and then you go get a reading, you go get a this, you go get a that, and just like you said, we put it on a drawer, and that's such a shame because there's so much more to discover. There are so many tools, but we need to go to the depth of it. And what I notice is that in astrology, in yoga classes, sometimes it just ends there. You go to an endless array of yoga class after yoga class, and this sequence, that sequence, and you wonder, where is this leading towards? Or I go get this reading, it may be life-changing, but if I put it in a drawer, that's it, I've done that. And I, even when I started off, of course, I didn't know any better, so I was doing it as best as I could, as we all do. And I would still offer only those readings, and I would be like, well, something's missing. I want to be with them when they have the breakthrough. I want to tell them not just do this mantra every day. I want to see them do the mantra every day, because oftentimes people will come back a week later and be like, oh, I didn't do it. One time I gave a person a practice for Vastu purposes to light up a diya, a little candle, in a particular way every day. And he couldn't do it. He couldn't do it for 2 days. And I thought, well, how can I support that and be there? So yeah, what I do is that I accompany person. It's not just a reading. The reading is just the introduction to the book, but then we read the book together, and then you come to your own conclusion of the book on your own. You do your own life, your own practices. So I do a group that will be with you throughout a period of time based on your chart, based on where you are in your life, and where do you want to go. So we combine as much as we can to set a beautiful direction and just do what you and I have been talking about this time, how to be spiritual, how to be in the world, how to just be happy.
Oh, I love this. So Mars, how can people find you if they want to connect with you?
If they want to find me, they just need to think really hard on me and I'll appear. No. They can find me mostly on Instagram by It's Mars Molina. That's my handle on Instagram. It's Mars Molina all together. And that's where I'm mostly active, posting information, a little bit of comedy even. And that's where I post a little bit of my travels and a little bit of the peek behind the curtains of what we do.
Perfect. That's absolutely amazing. So Mars, thank you so much for being here in another episode of this podcast and for all the knowledge that you shared. And I hope everyone who listened to this episode got some useful and juicy information to keep moving forward in your spiritual life. So if you take one lesson, I would say focusing on going deeper into the practices so you get to learn really what the whole thing is about, right? And really experience it in deeper level. So thank you so much for joining, and I will see you very soon. Bye. Wow, what a great episode. If you like our podcast, How to Run Profitable Retreats, leave us a review and share it with a friend.